Good evening, folks, and welcome back to breaking news coverage here of the fire at Bassett Superior Lines, breaking out now more than 4 hours ago. Bob Sharp's on the set with me. Bob, you've been with us throughout this whole thing. It's been what you might call a marathon session this evening.
No question about it, and and I don't know the right words to say, but an exceptional fire when you look at this, the amount of blaze and the number of people that responded. Fortunately, they were able to contain it without doing further damage either side of the fire, and of course they still haven't checking for brush fires on the other side of the river where some of the debris has sparked, and they had one substantial brush fire, about 1.5 acres. They had to bring in the plow, and they're still on standby there, and then fire department will be there all night, no question about that.
Indeed, and you know, we saw this at the beginning. It was still kind of bright sunlight. Now we're looking at it in the dark of night, and we can still see some fire there, but I guess that's not surprising in something this intense.
It is. This is the latest video. Not this, excuse me, but the last you saw was the latest video just taken just a short while ago. And here's some amateur video, which we encourage folks to, anytime they see news or anything of this magnitude happen, to try to capture it and get it and send it to us. It's push a couple of buttons and it's here on our desk.
Absolutely, and we want to say a big thank you to the people who contributed both video and photos this afternoon. I know we had at least 8 people, and maybe more, that sent us video and photos this evening, and we really appreciate that. That helped us to tell the story and get the word out more quickly. And we want to say also thanks to you for the excellent coverage you've done this evening. Jonathan Herring really going the extra mile, shooting some absolutely awesome video this evening, capturing it in a way that I think that you know, you almost felt like you were there.
Oh, absolutely, you did. And the close-ups and just seeing the magnitude of this blaze, there you can see them. It's shooting on up there in the sky. And there were multiple explosions that I heard. At one time it sounded like firecrackers, fireworks going off, and then all of a sudden, ba-boom, and you just see a big burst of smoke and fire, and I assume that's some sort of container with some sort of petroleum product in it, but it was pretty scary there when you think about it, a fire that magnitude right there in downtown Bassett. And they did a tremendous job with the wind blowing to contain that. It looked at one time that you weren't going to contain it. It was going to come all the way down. They kept it from going in both directions and then fought the fire on each side of the river where it was doing some damage to the woods. But very substantial fire. The good thing is we have not heard of any injuries whatsoever.
I actually had an opportunity to speak with a young man who's a high school student and a volunteer firefighter in Bassett. He called in just about 15-20 minutes ago and said that he had been released. He had to go home because he's still in school, you know, and get prepared for school the next day. But he had been up there right up to that time, and he said that everything had went smoothly, that they had contained the damage to the fire. He couldn't say for sure, but he didn't think that it had gotten to the area where they unload and load the furniture and where things are stored, which is good. And I asked him about injuries, and he said, you know, again, he couldn't speak for everyone, but for the area that he was working in, and to his knowledge, there had been no injuries in fighting this fire, and that's outstanding.
It really is. With the manpower and the number of people you had there, and with the water hoses and the fire and the wind. And one thing I think helped them too, the wind never really shifted. It seemed to stay in the same direction. Had that shifted, there could have been a whole lot of problems. You've got to realize these firemen up on those top of those ladders, that wind shifts, it could, before they could get them down or something, could really be a serious problem. So
indeed it could, and of course it changes your firefighting strategy. When the wind is working with you somewhat, that's a good thing. If it shifts and starts blowing smoke and flames toward you, you have to change your plan of attack. You might find yourself, you know, literally in the line of fire in no time.
Absolutely, and you think about the heat intensity, and you can see the flames there. If you don't think that's hot, I'm several hundred yards away, at least 200, maybe 250 yards away, but when the wind would really get strong, I could feel the heat from the flames, and I was in no immediate danger. I was a good, I don't know, 200 or 300 yards away anyway.
And we're using, I'm sure, using the long end of the zoom here, but you know, you think about even with all that fire gear and everything on, having to be right up on top of this, how much more intense that heat and smoke and everything is. It really is a harrowing experience.
It is, and one, you know, wonders in the middle of the day in Bassett and the fire starts, how can something get this big so quick? And I can't answer that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be amazed at the cause of this fire, because where this fire is, the majority of it they've already torn this down and demolished it and just had looked like piles of bricks and metal. But this stuff was burning like wood. So it's going to be interesting to see what all those materials were that made it get that hot. And I'm sure there had to be some petroleum in there, obviously from the explosion, and also from some wood products in there also that you just couldn't see with the naked eye.
And you know, this drives home the point of how important it is to be alert and aware of what's going on around you. If you see anything that even looks suspicious, especially a fire like this at an industrial complex, go ahead and call 911 and report it. You know, worst case scenario, they go out there, find there's nothing much to it. You know, it's no big deal. But let's say you see something like this and you think, oh, well, it's probably nothing. Fire can literally double in size every minute.
In a situation like this, you're absolutely right. And there's just a lot of materials there that we're just not aware of to be able to produce this kind of flames. And I thought from the very beginning it had to be that other building that was where the fire was. It didn't appear that it even touched that other building. So it started this side of the main structure there that's still intact. It didn't seem to be any damage. In fact, the flag's still flying high. And but it started in the part that they were demolishing, and of course we knew that was ongoing. That may be the cause of this fire. We won't know.
Indeed, we've seen that before. Again, just a spark. Sometimes just one spark is all it takes when you've got all those sources of ignition there to just start a fire that can literally bring a big building down. And we may have seen something like that this evening. We don't know yet. But it's obviously very intense. And again, we want to mention what you're watching right here, right now is amateur photos and videos sent to us by our viewers out there. We really appreciate this. And folks, whenever you see something happen in your community, if you have the time and the means to do so, take a picture with your cell phone or with a small camera, whatever you've got. Take some video if you can and send it to us at starnewscorp@yahoo.com. We'd love to have it. As far as, I know you've covered many a fire over the years. How would this rate on your scale?
Well, it's definitely in the top 5. I don't think anything I've ever seen will beat the Stanley fire. Because I remember when I was younger, the R.P. Thomas complex that burnt down. And then there was another one there on the East Martinsville Hooker, Pulaski. It was Pulaski. And I lived close to that, and never forget that. They had those 50-gallon drums that would blow 100 feet in the air, and that was probably the most spectacular fire that I've ever seen. Other than the Stanley fire. That Stanley fire was just one of the biggest, hottest. A lot more wood involved because of the structure. Here we didn't have the structure. They've torn it down. Right. So what amazes me is how much fire's there with, it just wasn't like, you know, wasn't like a building going up in smoke. It's just like here's a building that's been disabled, and they got, you know, you see piles of bricks. Everybody's seen it going by there. Thought it was just about gone. And then this breaks out. Just unbelievable, the amount of fire and smoke that was contained there. And it's really going to be interesting to see it tomorrow. The fire department was already talking, they're going to be on this scene all night long, probably half a day or a full day tomorrow, because it is still, as you can see, this is the latest video, a lot of hot spots. They're letting some of that burn down. They're protecting the surrounding area, but that's pretty much contained, and they've called a lot of the folks off now, so it's not out, but I would say it's under control.
That's one good thing about nightfall. It makes it harder in some ways to work, but it makes it a little bit easier maybe to spot some of those hot spots. So that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And here was some of the staging area where the rescue squad and folks were set up in case there were any injuries. Fortunately, well, there were none that we're aware of.
Well, Bob, again, we appreciate all your hard work this evening, and also to Jonathan Herring, to Charles Rourke, Brian back in the control room doing an excellent job, our own Dick Jansen out there working hard, really a whole a team effort. And again, thanks to all of our folks out there in the community as well who have contributed with phone calls, information, photos, video, whatever. You all helped us tell this story tonight. It was a true community effort, and our hats off to all the many volunteer and professional firefighters and emergency personnel out there working this scene tonight, bringing this fire under control and doing so incredibly with no injuries. Folks, stay with us. We will continue with more news right here on Star News.